Hello friends, this is the Cross Moda channel. In this episode, I want to talk about a type of motorcycle called red bike, and at the same time figure out when and under what conditions this style originated, what its philosophy is, and why these motorcycles look like they've survived the collapse of civilization. Make yourselves comfortable, let's get started. To put it simply, a rat bike is a motorcycle that hasn't been cared for and still isn't being cared for. It's rusty, some original parts are missing or replaced with who knows what. It looks messy and is full of all sorts of ridiculous add-ons that aren't needed in the design at all. Based on the above, red bike already existed at the beginning of the 20th century, in fact, literally at the time when the motorcycle appeared as a phenomenon. After all, to create such a wreck, it was enough to forget the motorcycle behind the chicken coop for a couple of years, then remember it, revive the engine, and ride it, regardless of the missing body parts and the rust that had appeared. But back then, it wasn't a movement yet. It would form a bit later. There are two theories about the origin of rat bikes, and in fact, they don't really contradict each other. The first one, bikes were built in low-income areas. When you're surviving on pennies but want a motorcycle, you don't care what it looks like or what it's made from. The main thing is that it runs and preferably can be maintained and repaired for next to nothing. And making this wreck look decent later, oh, why bother? It's better to spend your last pennies on beer and hang out with your friends. Second, the red bike style was inspired by cinema, specifically post-apocalyptic movies. And building rat bikes is a kind of imitation of what we've seen in movies and more. Just look at the influence the movie Mad Max has had on pop culture. And the first theory, in my humble opinion, is more comprehensive since imitation of the post-apocalyptic theme appeared a bit later. And before that, in the US, and not only there were plenty of different ghettos populated by bandits, drug addicts, alcoholics, and other marginalized people, as well as just poor people. And if the higher-ranking gangsters could afford a cool car or a brand new motorcycle, the rest had to make do with less. In fact, they built rat bikes from parts found in the trash and a beaten-up motorcycle bought for next to nothing. And as a style, the rat bike took shape around the 1960s and early 1970s. A classic rat bike looks like an old motorcycle, forgotten by everyone and left for a long time behind a shed in the snow and rain. Then someone remembers it and starts using it for its intended purpose. It doesn't take much effort to make a rat bike. All you need to do is take an old motorcycle, leave the rust as it is, or at most, paint it matte or cover the corrosion with varnish so it doesn't rot further, but still looks the same. Hang a couple of old toys, a dummy grenade, or a piece of chain you found on the road on the motorcycle, and your rat bike is ready. Often the designs turn out to be so intricate that it's hard to believe they can actually move. There's a canister instead of a gas tank, wheels of unknown material, and random trinkets attached. To build some of these kinds of monsters, you have to smoke a lot, and it's definitely not tobacco. However, to create such strange machines, you still need an inventive streak and some knowledge of engineering. Basically a beat-up Ige, or for example a grandpa's Ural that's been spray painted, not even completely, with an anarchy symbol on the tank and a sheepskin on the seat, can automatically be classified as a rat bike. That's why the statement that this movement is young in the post-Soviet space isn't entirely correct. To be precise, what's relatively new is the conscious, deliberate custom building of rat bikes, but there have always been plenty of beat-up motorcycles around. Now let me list the types of rat bikes. The first is a dumpster on wheels, or junk dressers. This is a popular type from the rat family in Germany and the US, and it's considered the most extreme. As a rule, the owner attaches all sorts of junk found along the way to this kind of motorcycle. It all starts with a few trinkets, and soon it gets covered with other junk, which can include all sorts of rags, hides, and turtle shells.
Животных и тому подобное.
The second motorcycle is for survival, or a survival bike. This style originated in the United Kingdom after the release of George Miller's film Mad Max in 1979. And the philosophy of this trend is about how motorcycles would look if our civilization were to fall. It doesn't matter whether it's a nuclear war, a meteorite impact, or the eruption of the Yellowstone volcano. The main thing is that after the catastrophe, at least some group of people survives. Otherwise, no one will be left to build cobbled-together bikes like these. The main idea when building is, if a part doesn't fit, make it fit. These custom builds also show practicality and utility. This is a survival bike and it should be simple, easy to repair, and preferably able to handle rough terrain. That's why enduro motorcycles are mostly used to build survival bikes. The features of these motorcycles' design include the following points: having good lighting. Sometimes there's a dual headlight like on the Honda Baja, various extras like heated grips and so on, and the presence of different props for a post-apocalypse look, a mock shotgun in a holster or some random spikes to shred zombies to pieces. The third type is Streetfighters in the red style. How did Streetfighters appear? Logically, some biker crashed all the plastic on his sport bike, didn't want to fix it, or didn't have the money and just decided it would do as is. Then others followed this example, and the process didn't start from a single case but happened in many places almost simultaneously. In these kinds of Streetfighters in the red style, there was a desire to return to that sloppy, don't give a damn attitude. The fourth point is choppers in the red style. In the usual sense, a chopper should be perfectly painted and shine with chrome. The owners of red choppers didn't care about that at all. Red choppers are made from the minimum number of parts. Fenders? To hell with them. Mirrors and turn signals? We don't need those. And trikes in the red style deserve a special mention. The same goes for motorcycles with sidecars, as long as they follow the requirements described earlier. So, my friends, that's basically everything about the red bike style, or simply put, rat bike. And as they say, a rat bike is still a rat bike even after a nuclear war. I hope you found this episode informative and interesting. If you have anything to add, feel free to leave a comment. That's the end of this video. Thank you very much for your attention, and see you next time.